Welcome to Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions.
Question number 1. Examine the linkages between 19th century's Indian Renaissance and emergence of national identity. Question number 1. Examine the linkages between 19th century's Indian Renaissance and emergence of national identity. The main body of the answer should be number 1. These ideas appealed to some sections of our society and led to several reform movements in different parts of the country. Number 2. At the forefront of these movements were visionary Indians such as Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and Pandita Ramabai. Number 3. These movements looked for social unity and strived towards liberty, equality, and fraternity. It is a historical fact that Indian nationalism was the consequence of an awakening which was marked by momentous changes embracing various spheres of national life. Number 4. It was a broad movement of regeneration affecting almost all spheres of life such as political, religious, economic, social, educational, etc., and is popularly called Indian Renaissance or the Indian Resurgence. The conclusion of the answer is: for India, the making of national identity was a long process whose roots can be drawn from the ancient era. But it was only in the 19th century that the concept of a national identity and national consciousness emerged. Question number 2. The long-sustained image of India as a leader of the oppressed and marginalized nations has disappeared on account of its newfound role in the emerging global order. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Till recently, India was viewed predominantly as a poor developing country and had a low visibility on the global political and especially global economic front. However, since the last decade, India appears to be writing a dynamic new future for itself. Moving on to the main body of the answer. Number 1. India's has been a dramatic rise, deserving of the global attention that it has commanded. The stage is set for India to realize its vision of becoming a $5 trillion economy in the next half-decade and USD low trillion economy in the next decade and a half, and to assist in appeasing the woes besetting the world economy. Number 2. India's commitment to renewable energy through voluntary and ambitious renewable power capacity targets, a lead role in the Paris Climate Agreement negotiations, and the International Solar Alliance shows its aspiration of becoming a leader in environment security and climate change mitigation. Number 3. India has also expanded its global stature in space exploration through widely celebrated breakthroughs such as its recent lunar mission and its distinction of becoming the 4th country worldwide to shoot down a low-orbit satellite with a missile. Number 4. India is also more involved in global humanitarian efforts and development initiatives, including infrastructure development in Afghanistan, the International North-South Transport Corridor, the Ashgabat Agreement, the Chabhar Port, and the India-Myanmar Thailand Highway. The conclusion of the answer is: India's deepened participation in coalitions demonstrate its growing global influence and appetite for enhanced visibility on a range of global initiatives and multilateral fora, its distinctive demographic advantage, technical prowess and knack for innovation, fused with the leapfrogging opportunities of Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies, can consolidate its position as a dominant force in global economic, political and strategic affairs. India has undertaken groundbreaking structural reforms mirroring its growth ambitions and development priorities. Question number 3. There is a clear acknowledgement that special economic zones, CES, are a tool of industrial development, manufacturing and exports. Recognizing this potential, the whole instrumentality of CES requires augmentation. Discuss the issues plaguing the success of CES with respect to taxation, governing laws and administration. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Special economic zones, CES, are potential tools of industrial development, manufacturing and exports. CES, which are major export hubs, contribute about one-third to the country's total exports. The main body of the answer is number 1. Recognizing this potential, the whole instrumentality of CES requires augmentation. CES policy in our country with respect to frequent changes in the policy environment is one of the major reasons of slackening the confidence of investors to continue and make fresh investments in CES. Number 2. Experiences of the last few years show that the imposition of minimum alternate tax (MAT) and dividend distribution tax (DDT) suppressed the potential of CES as a tool of exports and industrial development. Number 3. The special economic zones as announced by the Government of India in 2000 were deemed to be foreign territory for the purposes of trade operations, duties and tariffs. Number 4. These zones were to provide an internationally competitive and hassle-free environment for exports. Units were allowed to be set up in special economic zone for manufacture of goods and rendering of services. Number 5. All import-export operations of the Special Economic Zone units were on self-certification basis. Anything could be imported duty-free, but sales in the domestic tariff area by Special Economic Zone units were subject to payment of full custom duty and as per import policy in force. Number 6. The issues plaguing the success of CES with respect to taxation, governing laws and administration under the original scheme, businesses in CES were exempted from the minimum alternate tax (MAT) on book profits and developers were exempted from payment of the dividend distribution tax (DDT). But with indications that companies were misusing the policy for real estate arbitrage and that information technology companies were using the policy to recoup tax benefits that they lost when the Software Technology Parks of India (STPI) scheme ended, these exemptions were withdrawn. Number 7. From 2011 to 2012, MAT exemptions for CES units and developers were withdrawn and DDT exemptions for developers were terminated. MAT was levied on book profits at the rate of 20%, while DDT was levied at 20% on dividends distributed to shareholders. Number 8. A key attraction for corporate houses was the income tax holiday. With taxes being levied, the savings for companies on account of tax concessions was reduced, impacting interest in CES. Number 9. Predictability in taxation policies is a sine qua non for making the environment conducive for investment, whether foreign or domestic, so the withdrawal of direct tax benefits has been a setback for the CES program and has affected its future prospects. Number 10. The administrative procedures should be streamlined, wherein overall clearance mechanism should be speedy, robust and effective to transform zones as arenas for employment, new investment and development catalysts rather than enclaves for absorbing underemployed workers. Number 11. CES policy in our country with respect to frequent changes in the policy environment is one of the major reasons of slackening the confidence of investors to continue and make fresh. The conclusion of the answer is, therefore, to build a strong confidence amongst the potential existing investors, it is imperative to frame a stable, favorable, and highly transparent CES policy with long-term perspectives. In addition, policy instruments must be flexible enough to adjust to the evolving needs of the country.